The Americas before Columbus and the world that followed. The history of the discovery of the Americas is a complex and often misunderstood story, shaped by ambition, curiosity, technological progress, and profound human consequences. Long before the term discovery was ever applied, the continents later called the Americas were already home to sophisticated civilizations, thriving cultures, and diverse societies that had developed independently over thousands of years. From the great cities of the Maya and Aztec to the vast networks of the Inca and countless other indigenous peoples, the lands across North and South America were neither empty nor unknown to their inhabitants. What history commonly describes as the discovery of America is therefore better understood as the moment when Europe became permanently connected to these continents, setting in motion a global transformation that reshaped the world. Centuries before Europeans crossed the Atlantic in large numbers, human migration had already brought the first inhabitants to the Americas. Archaeological and genetic evidence suggests that early humans migrated from Asia across the Bering Land Bridge during the last ice age, gradually spreading southward and adapting to a wide range of environments. Over millennia, these populations developed agriculture, trade networks, belief systems, and political structures. Civilizations such as the Olmec, Maya, and later the Aztec in Mesoamerica, as well as the Inca in South America, achieved remarkable advances in architecture, astronomy, mathematics, and governance. These societies were deeply connected to their landscapes and had their own histories of exploration, conquest, and cultural exchange long before Europeans arrived. Despite this deep history, Europe's awareness of lands beyond the Atlantic remained limited throughout much of the Middle Ages. European knowledge of geography was shaped by classical texts, religious interpretations, and fragmented reports from travelers. Trade routes connected Europe to Asia through the Silk Road and the Indian Ocean, bringing spices, silk, and other valuable goods, but these routes were long, dangerous, and controlled by powerful intermediaries. As a result, European rulers and merchants began to seek alternative paths to Asia, driven by economic ambition and the desire for political advantage. Advances in shipbuilding, navigation, and cartography during the late Middle Ages made long-distance sea voyages increasingly feasible, laying the groundwork for what would become the Age of Exploration. It is important to note that Europeans were not the first outsiders to reach the Americas. Around the year 1000, Norse explorers led by Leif Erikson sailed from Greenland and established a short-lived settlement at Lonso Meadows in present-day Newfoundland. These Viking voyages demonstrated that transatlantic travel was possible, but they did not result in sustained contact between Europe and the Americas. The knowledge of these journeys faded from European memory, and for centuries afterward, the Atlantic remained a formidable barrier separating the two worlds. The turning point came in the late 15th century with the voyages of Christopher Columbus. Backed by the Spanish crown, Columbus believed that by sailing west across the Atlantic, he could reach Asia more quickly than by traveling east. His calculations were flawed, underestimating the size of the Earth and unaware of the vast continents that lay between Europe and Asia. In 1492, after a long and uncertain voyage, Columbus reached islands in the Caribbean. He believed he had arrived in Asia and referred to the local inhabitants as Indians, a misnomer that would endure for centuries. Although Columbus never realized that he had encountered previously unknown continents, his voyages marked the beginning of sustained European involvement in the Americas. The news of Columbus's journey spread rapidly across Europe, igniting intense interest and competition among maritime powers. Spain and Portugal, the leading seafaring nations of the time, sought to secure their claims through treaties and papal decrees. The Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494 divided newly discovered lands outside Europe between the two kingdoms, drawing an imaginary line across the Atlantic. While this agreement reflected Europe's attempt to impose order on the unknown lands, it ignored the existence and sovereignty of the millions of people already living in those lands. Nevertheless, it shaped the patterns of colonization that followed, with Spain focusing largely on the Americas and Portugal establishing a strong presence in Brazil. As exploration continued, European understanding of the Americas gradually evolved. Explorers such as Amerigo Vespucci recognized that these lands were not part of Asia, but constituted an entirely new world. His accounts helped popularize the idea of a separate continent, and eventually his name was applied to both North and South America. Expeditions pushed deeper into the interior, mapping coastlines, rivers, and mountain ranges while gathering information about local peoples and resources. These journeys were often brutal and exploitative, driven by the pursuit of gold, silver, and other riches, as well as by the desire to spread Christianity and expand imperial influence. The arrival of Europeans had devastating consequences for indigenous populations. Diseases such as smallpox, measles, and influenza, to which Native Americans had no immunity, spread rapidly and caused catastrophic population declines. Entire communities were wiped out within just a few generations, fundamentally altering the demographic and cultural landscape of the continents. On the other hand, European colonization disrupted traditional economies, social structures, and belief systems. Forced labor, enslavement, and violent conquest became common features of colonial rule, particularly in regions rich in mineral resources. While some indigenous groups resisted fiercely, others sought accommodation or alliance as a means of survival in a rapidly changing world. The discovery of the Americas also transformed Europe in profound ways. New crops such as maize, potatoes, tomatoes, and cacao were introduced to European diets, improving nutrition and contributing to population growth. This exchange of plants, animals, people, and diseases between the Old World and the New World, known as the Columbian Exchange, reshaped ecosystems and economies on a global scale. Wealth extracted from the Americas fueled the rise of European empires, financed wars, and accelerated the development of global trade networks. At the same time, the moral and philosophical implications of conquest and colonization sparked debates within Europe about humanity, rights, and the treatment of indigenous peoples. Over time, other European powers joined the race to explore and colonize the Americas. England, France, and the Netherlands established settlements and trading posts, particularly in North America and the Caribbean. These colonies developed distinct identities shaped by geography, economics, and relations with native peoples. Competition among European empires led to frequent conflicts, both in Europe and overseas, turning the Americas into a central arena of global rivalry. The legacy of these struggles can still be seen in modern political boundaries, languages, and cultural traditions across the Western Hemisphere. In retrospect, the history of the discovery of the Americas cannot be reduced to a single voyage or individual. It was a long process involving many actors, motivations, and consequences, both intended and unintended. While European explorers played a crucial role in connecting distant parts of the world, the story is incomplete without acknowledging the deep histories of the indigenous civilizations that preceded them and the profound disruptions they endured. The discovery of the Americas marked the beginning of a new global era, one defined by interconnectedness, exchange, and conflict, whose effects continue to shape the modern world. Understanding this history in all its complexity allows for a more balanced and honest appreciation of how the Americas came to occupy their central place in global history.